All right. There Will Be Bourbon returns again with another one of the premier goons out there. Javier Mackey. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. A little bit about Javier before we get into this. Some of the stuff that this fine American has been through is California raised, born out here, and then has spent the better part of the last 30 years in the South. He joined the Army in 1998 as a satellite systems operator and maintenance. 31 Sierra then, which is now 25 Sierra then. A lot of you 25 guys, this is the guy you wanna emulate your career after if you can, right? Spent the first part of his career at Fort Gordon before eventually going through air assault and airborne school. Met his wife at Fort Campbell. Still married. Good for you, man. That's an Army accomplishment in itself.
Here.
And then eventually, which we'll start out and cover, is he ended up going to Special Forces Assessment and Selection in November of 2001. So there's a key date right there that I would like to touch on. So hopefully everyone's paying attention as we get into that. But before we do, as you know, this is the bourbon-centered podcast, and I will be fueled tonight by the great Knob Creek. It's actually a special 15-year, 9-month edition that was picked by my bourbon group. So Nick Guy refers to me as a bourbon snob. This is the definition of it. Our Bourbon Brotherhood group that we haven't been able to meet in a while thanks to COVID, but we picked this last year. This stuff's delicious, and I feel like it's only right to talk with a man like Javier and then drink some of the finest bourbon.
Hey, so speaking of bourbon,
what you got, man?
Have you ever had that Pappy Van Winkle?
So I've had every one of them except for the 23 year.
All right.
Very fortunate to try them all, especially out here in Napa. There's several bars within walking distance, which is nice. That's had them. First time I had it was in Vegas, I think in 2015 when I was on leave actually from Jordan. I tried the 20 year in the Paris Hotel and Casino at the Center Bar. And I remember it was like $2 a shot, and I was like, all right, for 20 year at the moment, the bourbon boom had started in 2012, but everybody knows what Pappy is. It's Buffalo Trace makes it. If you don't know, Buffalo Trace is the greatest distillery ever. But I remember trying it there in the Center Bar, and then I realized shortly thereafter that the problem was I couldn't appreciate it because I was already drunk.
Right. That's what I'm not a drinker, but man, I remember watching listening to a podcast. I forget which one. And it just had me fascinated. I was like, you know what? If I ever pick up a drink, man, that's going to be it right there. But then my buddies were telling me, yeah, you're going to pay anywhere from $75 a shot to a couple of $100,
Yep. So while we're on the topic, because Pappy obviously it's got the reputation. It's well earned, but at the end of the day, I always tell anybody who asks about any bourbon, it's no different than scotch or bourbon or beer or wine. You drink what you like, right? Never be influenced by the price of anything, because just because something is expensive doesn't mean it's any good.
Right.
But what Pappy Van Winkle is from the Buffalo Trace line is obviously it comes from a very specific warehouse on the Buffalo Trace property, and obviously produced in very small amounts. But it's wheated, okay? So a wheated bourbon just means it's the majority of it is wheat, not corn. Like bourbon by law has to be 51% corn. This just happens to be 51% or more of wheat, right? So, but what it is being wheated and the age that it is, they make other lines, and the Weller line, which is this right here, this is the Weller 107.
Oh, nice.
This stuff is wheated. What they realize it is the same mash bill, which is what the mash bill is a recipe. It's a recipe for bourbon, right? So what people have figured out once the boom hit is Weller is nothing more and nothing less than younger Pappy Van Winkle. So what that's done is, like this one, for example, is probably a $25 to $27 bottle. The Weller Reserve, the green label, is probably about anywhere from 20 to 21. And since this boom, you're lucky if you find any of these anywhere. And if you do, like this gets jacked up to well over $100. That one goes up to 80 to 100. Like we're in strange times in the bourbon world, man, because stuff that used to really be just bottom shelf is now like, oh my God. That's unfortunately, and then they make a Weller 12-year and a Weller foolproof, which is barrel proof. Those are, should be $30 to $45, $50 bottles, and those are well over $100, $170, $200 if you even find them at this. Because liquor stores, they make these prices because they know people are going to buy them. Now, there's an MSRP, right? Like, what the distillery says it should be sold for, but that's no different than a car. If someone's going to pay $100,000 for a Toyota, then that's what the price is.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Capitalism.
Yeah.
In practice, right there, man.
Exactly. So we almost turned this into a full bourbon podcast.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's get to the reason why we've tuned in. It wasn't to hear me talk about bourbon. Like, that's what a lot of people like. They see my podcast and we're like, it's not even about bourbon. I'm like, I know that. That's the point. The bourbon fuels the conversation. So, All right, Javier. Before we even get to you at going into selection after 9/11, what led you to join the Army to begin with? Was family, or was it just something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, my stepdad. My stepdad plus my uncles. They served in the Army or Navy, or the Marine Corps, and so I used to grow up watching John Wayne movies and Clint Eastwood movies. And I always thought, man, I was like, yeah, I want to be in the military. But then it was like, I think every little boy who grew up in the 80s watched Top Gun and then the Navy SEALs. At some point was like, you know what? I think I want to fly. And so, so I wanted to be an aviator at one point, and then I wanted to be a submariner, and then I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and then I couldn't make my mind up. So I graduated high school, and then I had this kind of like a spiritual awakening for myself, being kicked out, living out on your own and everything. And so I became, I joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, served a mission in Georgia. While I was in Georgia as a Mormon missionary, I served at Fort Benning, Fort Gordon, Warner Robins Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I served, basically, I was surrounded by people that were very patriotic and loved their country. So that really stoked the fires. When I was in Columbus, especially at Fort Benning, a lot of the members there were a lot of the men were in Ranger Regiment.
Okay.
And I want to say some of them had gone to Somalia, and they had been back, and so some of those guys, well, regardless if they had gone to Somalia or not, they were just awesome guys to be around.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a Ranger, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna join the Army, be a Ranger. So I come home from my mission, and I talked to my stepdad, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about joining the military. And he was like, hey man, just go to school, get your education. You're smart. So I went and filled out of school, and I go back to my old man again. I'm like, hey, I'm really looking at joining the Army. I'm already talking to a recruiter. He was like, what are you going to do? And I go, well, I want to be an Army Airborne Ranger. And he was like, no. And he was an infantryman or engineer.
Okay, gotcha.
A combat engineer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he was like, I grew up in a different time. That's just not for you, son. So I'm like, all right. So he was currently, because he was in the reserves at this point, and he was in the communications field. So he was like, hey, why don't you go in the communications field and then just get out after 6 years. So loving my dad like I do, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do that. So so I joined the Army as a satellite systems maintenance and operator, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I did that. It was everything but what I wanted to do, but it gave me a baseline to start off with,
And so that feeling well.
It was I was in AIT. I was at Gordon for a long time, bro. Like, it was like a year, and that was like all training. It wasn't like I got recycled or anything. And so it really sucked at the end of the day, because they kind of like talk up this tactical side, You know, those are the guys who go out into the field. And then, but you all end up at a strategic site anyway. So it's just like, it's like a 9-to-5 job or shift work. You know, most of the guys are doing it. So I didn't like that too much. So I did that for 2 years. I was stationed in both at Campbell and Bragg, and later at Bragg as a 31 Sierra. And then 9/11, I was in the 82nd Airborne when 9/11 happened. And yeah, you know, that the rest is history from there. You know, it was, I wanted to be a soldier. You know, I wanted to dig foxholes. I wanted to go out and simulate combat, and, you know, in preparation for combat, you know, and everything was like Russian era. Russian era
Cold War focus at that time.
Yeah, huge Cold War focus. So you go to JRTC, and, you know, everything looks like a Russian helicopter. You know, Russian military equipment. You know, so I had no clue, and at this point, I had no clue what SF does. But I was like one of the guys in the unit in our when I was in the 82nd in the Sigma Battalion. I was one of these guys, like, anytime there's a field of training exercise, you know, I wanted to be where everything was going down. I didn't want to be stuck in my shelter, you know, nerd, and plug it in, you know, trying to explain to a captain why, you know, the satellite is not working, and, you know, so yeah, when 9/11 happened, unfortunately, you know, I wish it hadn't happened, but fortunately, because of it happening, there was a lot of guys that when I went to selection, that was their motivation right there, you know. So that, you know, it along with my family and being something I always wanted to do.
So
it was one of those things.
Yeah. So was 9/11 the motivation for you to go finally, or was it something that had been on your radar before that?
Well, yeah. Well, so that's kind of funny because 9/11, if 9/11 hadn't happened, I think I would have been too afraid to take that step.
Like, I understand that.
Yeah. Up until that point, you know, Green Berets, I mean, these guys were like rock stars, you know, and I wasn't a PT stud, you know. I was making, you know, 270, 280, you know. It was respectable, but, you know, in my head, these guys were 300s, 300 plus, you know, sub 2 hour, 12-mile ruck marches.
Yeah. So let me guess, you were like,
swimming 5
you can
miles.
max everything, but you can't max the run, right? Is that what it is?
Right.
Yeah.
That's me. Exactly. You know. And so it was one of those things. I was intimidated, you know, and I got in my own head prior to that point. But when 9/11 happened, it was like, I don't know, something just snapped in me. And I just like, you know, I'm going to selection. And I just didn't give up. It was one of those things where I went, and as long as I was still waking up and doing the events, it was one of those things when I saw, because when you get there, you know, you start off with, you know, anywhere from 375 candidates to 400, right? I think it's the max you can have. And within the first day, you know, 25 guys will just leave, you know. So now you're down to 350.
Yeah.
And then the PT event, now you're down to 290, you know. And then after PT and a couple of ruck events, now you're below 200. And so at the end of the 20, so I went to it was 28 days when I went through. So by the time you find out if you were selected, I mean, there was probably at most 100 people remaining.
So what defines who gets selected from that portion and who doesn't? And you're like, what have you seen through experience? What's the general?
I think is I wish I knew. You know, I don't know what it is about the people who were selected and wasn't selected. I think overall, the guys who weren't, and this is just my opinion, people who weren't selected were people who were like repeat offenders.
Okay.
Like on the obstacle course, they didn't, the majority of the obstacles they were weak on. The runs, they might have been strong in the run, but all the strength events, the team events, they just sucked, or they got caught a few times on the road, or they didn't find all their points. I didn't go at a time when there was team week. I don't know why the decision wasn't made, but when I went, team week wasn't even a factor. We had what they call the long range individual movement, and I think when I measured my distances out, it came out to like 60 miles. So, and that was all, it was all cross country land nav. So that sucked. And you have 48 hours to do, find 8 points.
Damn.
And
so is that why you have your YouTube channel about,
Oh,
looking over strange terrain, teach people how to do land nav?
Well, I like land nav, because it was like that was my test. That was where I cut my teeth.
Okay.
And when I was teaching in ROTC at UCF, I told the kids, if you can plan a route from point A to point B and get yourself there, you can lead a patrol.
Right.
And if you can lead a patrol, then if you can do that much, then, and so looking over strange terrain was like it's me going over eventually what it would be is me going over my syllabus of teaching leadership through land navigation and planning versus going out to the range and looking all sexy with the gun and
So the fun fact, the 197th Infantry Brigade at Fort Benning, when I was there in 2009, 2010, we got attached to them to instruct land nav. So
nice.
That's why it's kind of, Now, total perishable skill, as you probably know. But the wonderful land nav courses of Sand Hill and at Fort Benning, I remember them well. And one of my favorite stories was so when we have a great group, as you know, on the chat that we talk in, but
right.
There's one guy I was a drill sergeant with who, when the world ends, he's one of those guys you want with you, right?
Right.
This dude just always, if he wasn't doing something related to guns or teaching something related to guns or showing us the latest gun that this dude had, any opportunity he had downtime, he was hunting on Fort Benning. Like he was the guy that had his own deer stands on some of the land nav ranges at Benning. Like we'd have privates out there doing their course, and you'd walk by like a deer stand, and we're like, what the what is?
Yep.
And so I remember one time. So we had a lightning event going on, so we had to take everybody out, and we're waiting for the lightning to pass. So we're driving down to the shopette on Sand Hill, and it's kind of raining, and we're in his truck, and we see one of the Benning fleet trucks off to the side. It's a white vehicle. Crack. We see the driver out there, like trying to look at one of his headlights. It's all cracked. We pull over. He's like, "What happened, man?" He's like, "Man, I hit this fucking spike that came running out into the road." And this guy's like, "Oh, not a problem," because this thing's on the side of the road, still kicking. It's not dead. He goes to his truck. What are those things called? Is it a blackjack or a slapjack? Whatever the damn, that leather thing with pellets and shit. Who carries that? This guy. So he gets out, whacks the thing in the head twice. We go to the shopette. He gets something that he needed to get to, perform the next task. We go out there. Within 25 minutes of us finding this guy on the side of the road and him doing that, he had that thing completely cleaned and on his smoker grill that he already had out there.
Oh, wow.
The best part about it was, like, for whatever reason, First Sergeant and the commander decided to make an appearance that day, like literally as we're handing out some of the deer to the privates, because there's nothing else for them to do. We got to make them eat fucking MREs and we got a deer here. Like, so, we're handing them out. So that was an interesting counseling event with the commander about not feeding the privates wild game. So,
yeah. I mean, those are the type of things that build relationships. And I bet you not his privates are going to be like, upset that he got venison. He's going to think that was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
honestly, that was the first time. That was the first time I ever had deer, the heart, and I thought it was delicious. Like to this day, I haven't had it since. I wish I could. You don't actually see it on the menu. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I'm going whitetail hunting tomorrow. So
are you? Well,
hopefully I'll get something. I've been here 5 years and haven't shot anything yet.
What state are you in at the moment?
Yeah. Florida.
Are you still in Florida? Okay. Yeah, that's where he's from, actually. I should probably, I should honestly put you in touch with this dude.
Yeah.
He's still down in Florida. He still lives down there. I'm trying to remember the name of he lived in this little tiny small town outside of it was either outside of Claremont or Tampa. I have to look into it. But yeah, I'll go back and look into this. So anyway, all right. So you make it through selection. You're there in the post 9/11 world. I remember talking with Joe last night. He made it, I guess, 2003 was by the time he finished. Was that around the time you did? Same time?
No. No, I took the long route, man.
Yeah. So how does that work? So yeah, walk us through that.
So I'm a pretty persistent person, and I became dumb as a rock, hard as a rock, and just muscled through a lot of it. But what didn't jive. So when Joe and I went through, the first thing you did was PLDC. So that was easy. That was big Army stuff, stuff I'm totally used to. Then you go through SUT, and this is where I started running into.
And the SUT is what? Small unit tactics?
Small unit tactics, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, small unit tactics was rough. I knew. I didn't have a lot of experience. So the first time
right? Because of
right,
exactly.
Yeah, I was a soft skilled MOS, and then so I had to see it twice, which is fine. It wasn't like everybody was. We're doing an assault, and I'm running the opposite direction. It's just,
it's just new. That's all. It's just new, man.
Yeah, it was all new. So, and then after that, we went to MOS, and so this is where I ran into more issues. I was originally at 18 Echo, so I was, which is a communications sergeant. Yeah. That's what I went in to SF as, is a communications sergeant. And that committee, so each MOS is ran by a committee of guys with that MOS. Okay. And they teach, they're subject matter experts of that job. But they're buttholes, man. That's what at the end of the day, man, these guys are just, the 18 Echo committee is maybe the when it comes to PT and just rubbing your face in the dirt is probably the hardest, in my opinion, it's the hardest MOS to go through physically, because you're always rucking, you're always running, it's just, and they were PT monsters too. So we were doing this one exercise where you can't get anything wrong. I got something wrong twice, and then like big Army standard, you get recycled.
Right.
So I get up and through that event, and I pass it the second time around, and I make it all the way to the end. And there was a catastrophic event, like a test of people's attitudes, So
okay.
I was the first class. I was in the first class that got rid of Morse code. So I didn't have to do Morse code. And so the instructors naturally have this like, oh, you're getting over, because you didn't have to.
Because you didn't have to do what they did.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they have to make things a little bit harder, Yeah. So we're in, I forget what it's called. We're in Arkansas or Oklahoma, one or two, Arkansas or Oklahoma, doing our FTX. And we jump in, and we didn't jump in that time, but we do this long infill. It's like maybe 20 miles. We got about 100 pounds worth of gear, just gear. Mm-hmm. On top of that, maybe a change of clothes, a couple water bottles, whatever. a couple MREs. And so the whole time we're there, they're just messing with us, like they put us in a really bad spot to where we couldn't get communications out. I guess it was up to us to try to figure that out. It was just like one nightmare after the other. And then the compounded was we spent all night. So you get these hand crank generators, and all you're doing is just cranking batteries. And all night long, you just hear this droning for like hours. So I spent 5 days cranking on batteries, just to to have juice. Well, so that meant we were working in shifts, and then we were, some things just fell along the wayside. So one of the instructors, he had to, he got upset, and he was like, all right, you're going to go to this low water point. And it was just like 11 clicks out, man. And we had like an hour or two to get down there, get some water and MREs, and bring them all back for the rest of the class. And that sucked, man. We just didn't make it. We missed our communication windows. It was just a horrible event, man. At the end of the day, it just taught me that I didn't want to be a communicator on an SF in the SF world, Yeah, because I just got pooped on left and right. So
yeah,
we get back. Something was, I'm not going to go into the particulars, but there were some unprofessional events that occurred during that time period as a result of us doing that long walk there and back. And we took our grievance up to the general.
Oh, wow.
And it was just two of us. And I was there as kind of like a emotional support dog, because we were both getting like recycled. So it was just like, all right, whatever, whatever happens. And so general was like, hey, what do you guys, the sergeant major actually was like, so do you think you want to go back and do the echoes? I was like, no, heck no. And he goes, well, any MOS you want, you got. So I went to be a 18 Charlie, which is the engineer. And my buddy went over to be a Bravo. And then, I went through that. I had no problems going through the Charlie course. Hit a little hiccup in Robin Sage, got recycled. And then I finally made it all the way through language and everything. So it took me about three years.
Okay. So what language did you end up doing?
While I was there, I had French.
You had French.
So,
okay. Do you still speak it?
Yeah. So no, not at all. French fry, parlez-vous.
There you go.
We had the worst teacher, man. She is the worst. I mean, this chick, man, she would get like distracted. Like there's a certain type of individual she liked. And when she saw that type of individual walking through, and she'd be like, bonjour, and then walk outside the classroom to go chat it up with these dudes. And so that type of guy would keep walking down the hallway because he knew that he was going to get her number.
Right.
These different, the certain type of guys that would walk down. It was pretty funny, man. But yeah, she was easily distracted. We didn't learn anything from her. But I made it through language, and then SEER school was the last thing we went through. And then after that, man, I got to my team at third group.
Third group?
Okay. Third group, 3rd Battalion.
Okay, so now we move along. You made it through. So damn, man, it sounds like a very Army heavy story right there. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of like Army in that whole story.
It's funny because so every time I got recycled, there was a reason. Like we found out later, there was a reason. Like I needed to be home for a catastrophic event, or my wife was pregnant, or whatever. So had I not been recycled at those particular times, then I probably would have missed some really key events in our family's life. So,
Yeah.
It, for whatever reason, though, man, I never felt like my career was in danger, like I was going to get kicked out of the course.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely went the long way around it.
Well, is that what you see though? Do you think that for those who maybe are listening to this at some point and want to follow your path or a similar path, is the advice essentially, hey, as long as you keep making the effort and the attempts, you'll eventually get through there, or is that not?
Well, I wouldn't say it like that. I would say like, listen, man, like, because that was how it was like for me, you know?
Yeah.
It just feels like I didn't feel like there was a worry that I was going to get kicked out of the course and I was going to be in the 82nd. And if that would have happened, I would have been like, all right, whatever, you know, do my time and get out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, for me, I knew like me being recycled was because there was something key to my training that I didn't really quite grasp. But then by the time I got to my my ODA, I mean, I was a master at everything I did. You know, I wouldn't say master, but I was highly confident in my abilities to do things. So I'm really excited. I was really excited to get to a team. I was really open about how many times I got recycled. That I mean, and it kind of worried the guys. They were like, "Man, this guy's a dirtbag," you know. And I was like, "No, dude, I'm a hard worker, bro. You know, put me in a ring with Mike Tyson. Eventually, I'm gonna knock him out." You know?
It's true. I mean, hey, you got proficient at a lot of the things, as you said, man. So, all right. So you're there. You move on finally, and then some of the other things I'm reading through that you eventually found yourself in was you became a canine handler, and then you were a advanced marksman. You have down here a SOTIC level 2 sniper, the JTAC. Okay, so how was because I've seen a few of your pictures on Twitter. How did you find yourself into the canine handler world?
So I went from so I was a junior Charlie. So every when you get to your team, regardless of your rank, you know, you'd be a sergeant first class, you'd be a staff sergeant, you'd be a sergeant. If you're the newest guy on the team, you're the most junior guy on the team. Right. So nothing you say really matters. So that's where I started off, you know, and I went from being a junior guy on the team to a senior guy on the team by 2008. And then 2009 is when, or early 2008, we started hearing about there being they called them Special Operations Forces multi-purpose canine handlers.
Okay.
Soft NPC. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that. You know, I'm a engineer anyway. I deal with explosives. I understand explosives. I love dogs. So yeah, I'll do this. So I volunteered to be a dog handler. I went to Peru, Indiana for 3 months or a month, maybe a month and a half to learn how to be a dog handler. And that was awesome. Awesome TDY. But you learn everything about the dog from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And then
what type of dog was it? The Belgian Malinois or?
Yeah. So we had Belgian Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, and German Shepherds. And so my first dog was a Dutch Shepherd.
Okay.
Bart, and I had him all of like 3 months, and then he like went retarded, and then before I got deployed, and so they sent me back to get another dog, and I went and got a Belgian Malinois named Andy, and so he and I completed training together. So I had to go back out there for like another month and a half. Just the way it works, you know. So I went and completed the training, And then right after I completed training, I deployed to Afghanistan, and I was supporting 19th group or 20th group in Afghanistan in the Uruzgan Valley, and it was pretty rough. The year prior I had some catastrophic things occur with the death of a teammate, and I still was kind of shell shocked from that event, and I shouldn't have been on that deployment, but I was there anyway, and I did what I had to do, and then I eventually went home. But and I did another deployment with third group as a dog handler, and that was awesome. I had a little bit longer break between the deployment cycle, and I was able to get out, and we were always in the air. We were at a big push through Marja, so Marja was a huge thing for me. So we started off in Kandahar and just wrecked house for a couple months, and then finally they were like, "All right, dude, you guys, the Marines and another ODA is going to take up from here." And then we went back up to Camp Moorhead that year, and I finished the rest of the rotation. I went home right before Bo Bergdahl went missing.
Okay, so that's a point of contention for a lot of people, obviously, in the Army, especially probably in your side of the world.
Yeah,
one of the guys I work with now, like he talks about that and his unit's experience over there with it. But so when you do the canine handler, what is your primary mission with that when you go over somewhere? Are you doing bombs? What is the primary mission for you guys?
So with the canines being multi-purpose, that meant they track man odor. They do what they call patrolling, which is bite work, and then they detected explosives. So, those were our three main missions, and conducting sensitive site exploitation after the team rolls through a compound, and I'm following trail looking for IED components, things of that nature.
What age do they start the dogs in their training?
You know what? My dog was fairly mature, so all my dogs were fairly mature, so it's really hard to say.
Okay, I always wondered that because
maybe like 2 or 3 years old.
2 or 3, okay. Yeah. I remember. So in my last deployment, I was at one of the times when I was in Kuwait. They had a lot of the dogs there on Camp Arif John, and I remember they needed like an E7 to come do a site inspection, and so I went and did that, and I got to see all those dogs, and there must have been like maybe 9 or 10 of them in there, and I was just blown away with they were not my friend. Like they could not, they definitely I mean, they were very clear, like, hey, don't go pet the dogs, just do the inspection, count them, all that stuff. And I was like, but I just remember thinking, like, man, I wonder like what age or what it is that they start them at, because I thought it was just cool to be around. But they're definitely not ready for playtime or anything. So
so they go operational. I would guess like 2 or 3 years old. But their shelf life can depend upon when, like, the events they go through while they're deployed, because they're just like us. They get PTSD. In fact, Andy, my Belgian Mal, when I came back, I redeployed in 2010 with Andy, and I didn't even get I got like onto the ramp, and Andy looked left and right, and he was like, the ramp of the C-17.
Yep.
He looks left and right, and he was like, nope. And he goes right back into the belly of the aircraft. And I'm like, what the heck? And my master trainer sees it. My team sergeant is looking at that, and we're all kind of scratching our heads. And so, the determination was, all right, there's definitely some, PTSD issues going on with Andy. So they sent me Marco, a Dutch Shepherd. to fill in his spot, and that's who I went through combat with for that 2010 trip.
Yeah. Okay. So that was 2010, and you come back from that. At that point, did you move on from canines, or did you just?
No, yeah, I came back. So the team I was supporting asked me to come on as their Charlie, their engineer was going to become the intelligence sergeant.
Okay.
And so they asked me to come in to be the senior engineer. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that job. And we ended up going to Kyrgyzstan that year. That was 2011. We went to Kyrgyzstan, and so while I was there,
okay. I was gonna ask, were you over there when they finally killed Bin Laden?
Yeah, sure was. Yeah.
What was that like when you guys learned it? Because I was just talking, just because it's so fresh in my mind, talking with Joe about it last night. It's just, what was when you found out that you guys, had killed Bin Laden, what was the reaction like? Hey, this might be the end of all this, or what was kind of like, from your perspective, how did you react to that?
So I wasn't in Kyrgyzstan when it happened. I think I was back stateside.
Okay.
I'm not sure what month. I think that
it was
that
May.
happened.
Yeah, it was May of 2011. We looked at it. We Googled it.
Yeah, so I was there. So, okay. And I do remember. So what I do remember is it took about a week for us to find out.
Okay.
And we found out from a local national at a bar.
God.
And because we're everything, because we weren't on Manas Air Base.
Mm-hmm.
We were out in Bishkek, doing our thing, doing some training with our local military. And so everything any news we got is when we went into Manas to get food, money, whatever, to refit and get back into town. And so, we found out from a local, one of our drivers. He told us, he was like, "Yeah, you guys know, the Navy SEALs killed Bin Laden." We were like, "What?" And I think if anything was said, it was like, "Well, we're not going to ever hear the end of this. When is the book deal?"
And wow, how prescient was that? Because you hear about it every day.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting, man. But because we had a mission to do, man, we were so focused on what we were doing. It was like, all right, well, let's keep on going,
Yeah, that's interesting, Ditko, because I guess my two initial reactions, and these were things I talked about with Joe, but I'm just curious because your time overlapped. So while you were in, because I'm going to back up now because there's a few events that you were a part of that I really want to get your take on. So your training for selection lasted a little longer. Do you remember where you were when they caught Saddam in December of 2003?
I was on staff duty in language school.
Damn, that's crazy. So did you think, like, when you were going through that, were you thinking, based on everything you're trying to get through, you're trying to do, did you think you were going to miss out on, the war or what were you thinking? Cause you're a young guy at that point. I know how every young dude back then just wants to go fucking do shit.
So there was a lot of that anxiety of, I'm gonna miss out. And so it kind of gave me that little extra push to try to get through this stuff, as fast as possible. But every time, man, like I said, there's always something that got in the way, and there was a reason why that obstacle was placed in my way. When I remember, I was on staff duty, and so we had it was like a Friday, Saturday staff duty thing, and me and the guys in the language school that pulled that duty, we would bring our Xboxes and play Halo all night.
Did it in Iraq.
And then we had the other television up. So we had like these two TVs side by side. And, you know, of course, we didn't have flat screens back then. You know, they were all like big tubes.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah. So we're sitting there playing, and I remember seeing it on CNN or Fox, one of the two. And I was like, holy crap, who's that guy? You know, who's that bearded guy they pulling out of the dirt? Because it was shortly after Jessica Lynch was found too, right?
Well, Lynch, because Lynch was she was caught during the war, but they went and got her fairly quickly after that.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like the same type of
invasion. No, what they did, what was close to them was when they killed his kids. Uday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before that.
That was like a week or two before that.
Yeah, like Ron actually, Ron Moeller, he talks in depth about that because he had to go inspect the bodies and shit at Baghdad airport. I remember them bringing them on into BIAP because we were there and they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, you see that show up and you it's not your normal convoy coming through the gate. You know what I mean? So stuff stands out. That's some cool stories about that shit. So that happens, and then all right.
So I was in.
Yo, go for it, brother.
Oh yeah, I was in. I was on staff duty when I remember watching them ball up Saddam Hussein, and then at that point I didn't fear like I was going to miss out on anything because Afghanistan seemed like a quagmire,
So see, that's what I'm curious about. Okay, so give me that perspective because I was in Iraq. I was in Baghdad in 2003. I remember being, our platoon sergeant called us all together to tell us that they had caught Saddam, and we were still getting news from fucking Stars and Stripes that was running 2 weeks behind. You know what I mean? So, what was Afghanistan like in terms of how you were being presented it through the media at that point? Because we didn't get any of that. We didn't have media, or we didn't have any news or anything to watch. So I was curious how that was.
So my idea of Afghanistan while I was going through the Q course, it was like the ultimate, like all the cadre, mixed with the cadre. What he was saying, it was going to be a straight up UW unconventional warfare mission, and that we're going to face the unconventional warfare challenges. And so that's what I was ready for when I got there. And then when I got to the team, the impression I got was Afghanistan was the wild, wild west. And it was like sometimes you get into shootouts just showing up, And
it was also the first 6 months of Iraq, man.
Yeah, And so I haven't not ever been in combat before. I didn't have a baseline to golf from. So for me, it was everything was new. Everything was new. And so going into Afghanistan, I kind of went into. So my first mission was in Jordan, and I want to say while I was in Jordan, I was in the north. I was like in the northeastern portion. There's like an air base there, doing some stuff, and I want to say Zarqawi got they dropped on him while I was there. So while I was there, so there was definitely a threat towards us, and I was kind of like naive about the whole thing. I kind of went into Jordan thinking, you know what, I got my boys with me. Life is great. If anything happens, they got my back, right?
Right.
So we're at the tail end of our mission there, and at this time, our scuba team, the Al Qaeda dropped some mortars on our scuba team while they were in the Gulf of Aqaba doing a dive.
Oh, I remember Aqaba. Yeah. Okay.
Something dive related with the Jordanian Special Forces.
Okay.
And so they bugged out of that. But when then word came out to the embassy, yeah, dude, they're targeting you guys. And I'm thinking, whatever. At this point, I'm in Amman, going to the mall by myself and walking down the street.
Yep.
buying shawarmas, and I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of invincible. No, it's seriously, you know, when I got my beret,
I'm just laughing because you said buying shawarmas, and that's all I remember. Like literally every chance I had in Jordan, I wanted to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm surviving. I'm trying to like spend all my, you know, not spend all my TDY money. And I've been eating like $2 shawarmas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know. And I have no situational awareness. I'm just walking around town, enjoying the sights and everything. And yeah, and so we get ready to leave, and we're bouncing from hotel to hotel because the threat is pretty. We have a substantial threat, so we can't like loiter around too long.
Yeah.
And when we left, I think we were either at the airport or we were in the airplane. You know, we were told that the hotels we were staying in got bombed.
Oh,
and I thought that was pretty significant. You know, it was just like, holy crap. And so one of the ladies, like where I was staying at, or she was captured, you know, her and her husband. Her husband killed himself, but she didn't. And so she was captured by the government and put in jail. And I don't know if you remember when ISIS killed that Jordanian pilot.
Yeah.
Lit him on fire in the cage.
Yeah.
And Jordan retaliated by killing this lady. So the lady that they killed swore allegiance to ISIS, and so therefore they killed her, executed her in retaliation for the killing of their pilot. So, so yeah, and that's so. I guess I say all that to say this. You know, my view of what was going on in the world was very skewed. I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, like, you know, walking around the city of Amman with Hamas and Al Qaeda running around, and I could have been an easy target, and got myself swooped up. But going into Afghanistan, I kind of went in with the same attitude. You know, I kind of felt like invincible. Only this time I can carry a gun.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, we roll into Afghanistan, and from off the bat, like the first 2 weeks, it was like back-to-back missions. Like we would come in and meet with, you know, the guys would meet with the intel guys, get the next mission, give the op order, and we're back out on the road. And then we did that for like 3 or 4 days straight, and then we had like a break, and then we did it all over again. So I went into it thinking, all right, we're going to be, you know, we're going to be operational. We're going to be on the move all the time, but it wasn't the case. There was some downtime where I got an opportunity to meet the locals and kind of get embedded with the locals and everything. But yeah, man, it wasn't like Ranger Regiment or like Task Force or anything like that. It was very Afghanistan was a methodical rush, no rush to end. You know, they wanted to take it step by step because this was you know, Afghanistan seemed a little more sensitive because regionally life is different. You know,
Very different. Yeah.
And then the Afghan government has no governance in their provinces outside the capital. You know, so it's a little, you know, it's getting better. It was getting better towards the end of my career, and I feel like it's getting better now. But who knows? But
okay,
yeah, you know.
Yeah. No, well, okay. So now I want to let's back up a bit because Staff Sergeant Rob Miller he received the Medal of Honor in 2008, if I'm correct. Is that 2008 when it happened?
Yep.
Okay. And so you were deployed with them then and in 2006, or?
Yeah, 2006 and 2008.
Okay.
2006, 2007, 2007, 2008. Yeah.
Okay, so how let's go to his well no, let's take it the initial one. So in 2006, because I looked at some of those tweets, man. You posted how he, you know, he took the time to go out and learn Pashto and What was this young man like in 2006 when you guys first got there?
Dude, he was like every guy that gets to an SF team, very motivated. And he remained like he was disciplined and motivated, and the way I look at it is, and what we all liked about Robbie was his discipline, and he would get real focused on something and he wouldn't let up on it until he met his goal. And so he came to the team and we embraced him. He was the first 18 X-ray on our team.
Oh, really? Okay.
Those are the guys who come off the street,
Yeah. That's
and,
what's more impressive about that though, Javier, is that he actually made it, because most of those dudes don't. You probably know that. You come in off the street 18 X, you don't really make it.
Right. So the guy, so just to like kind of like solidify what you said, when I went through the Q course, I went through with 10 X-rays, and they were the first X-rays of the GWAT generation.
Oh, wow.
And we started off with 200. I want to say it was 200. And by the time I got to the Q course, there was only 10. So.
Oh, wow. Damn.
And those guys were pretty good dudes. But yeah, so Robbie,
the Florida boy, wasn't he?
What's that?
Wasn't he a Florida boy?
Yeah, he's from Oviedo. He's
Oviedo.
I'm in Orlando.
Just like Alwyn Cash. Sorry, Cash, that we've been talking about all day. He's Oviedo. That's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, his sister lives here, and I met her a couple of years ago at a Gold Star. So Rob's mom and I, we do a lot of things. We speak a lot for Robbie.
That's good.
So it's pretty nice. And I forget her name, but Cash's sister was at a Gold Star event, and she told his story. And that's how I first learned about him. So.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. He was one of the guys. Before we get back into Sergeant Miller to Robbie, as you refer to him, but no, Sergeant Cash. His story is one that we always told every cycle. Anytime I had an opportunity to do any type of sergeant's time or whatever, like just from 2005 on, I became a drill sergeant. I went to drill sergeant school in 2008, but I remember our instructors. I remember dudes who were in that unit, or not with him, but in the same division. Just that story will never die, and that's what I think is amazing. Because he was awarded the Silver Star, but I mean, we've got that push that's been going on for years in the veteran community, especially with Twitter and social media. It's amplified and brought more attention to it, because that fucker deserves that shit. Like, if there's any, like I said it earlier in the chat, like if there's a fucking definition for the Medal of Honor citation, it better read, hey, what Sergeant Cash did when that stuff. Like, to me, that just, it gets me a little fired up, because like it just, the Silver Star is a high honor, but come on, man, this motherfucker, that dude did, like, there's nothing more epitomizes going above and beyond than what he did.
And that's the way Robbie was, man. They all kind of like share those same type of qualities, So 2006 we get there, and Robbie's young, I'm young, and we're all trying to figure this out. We got a couple of older guys on the team. We have a fairly new team. When we got there, a lot of the guys who have been there for a while started kind of cycling out, and so we are now the senior guys on the team, along with a few others, So 2006, we're in Afghanistan, and right off the bat, we get into our first tick. About maybe like 3 weeks into it, we get into our first tick, troops in contact, and we were in this small village called Gowardesh, which is north of our firebase, and a little bit more north where he finally died, but that was in the next year. But anyway, we got into this tick, and we all did our job. Rob, he jumped off the ATV and shot, mortars and AT4s and a saw. He was just getting some. And he was awarded the Army Commendation Medal with Valor for that firefight. And yeah, man, and from that point on, man, he always walked point. He began to get himself embedded with the local security force we were training. And yeah, he started learning Pashto and Urdu, and that's just the way he was. So yeah, that's how he started off in 2006. I'm sorry, man.
No, hey, no worries. Hey, no, it's authenticity right there. So all right, so that was 2006. Now let's fast forward to 2008. You guys are back. This is where he would be awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions. What was that? What was the name of the province? I know it began with a K.
It was in Kudar province, Nuristan.
Okay.
Where we were stationed in Kudar, but Nuristan was just north of us. That's where Cop Keaton, where Robbie died, is not far from where Cop Keaton fell. And all those, that guy overran. So January 2008, 25th was the day. And we had been, so in 2006, we went to hit this target in the area that I'm about to talk about. And we get there, we set up our ORP, we're ready to conduct a hit, and checks off station, and the guys we were with said, hey, we can't do this hit without this aircraft on station. So we were like, all right. So we pack up. I mean, when you're at the ORP, you're like, what, a terrain feature away from the objective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how close we were. So that was 2006. We walked back to Recock, but we never did that trip. Fast forward 2007, intelligence is built up that the same guy that we went to go look for in 2006 is there. And so but this time the guys that we were playing with the first time decided it wasn't worth their time. It was like, we don't have enough intelligence. We have some good information, but none of it's intelligence. So we're gonna sit this one out. You guys go knock yourselves out. So we enter the valley, and we meet. First of all, we meet at this point. We call it Checkpoint Delta. It's right before you get into what we call Ambush Alley. The Ambush Alley is just this really narrow valley in northern Kudar that you basically it's like from wall to wall, from one side of the valley to the other is very, very narrow. And along what's handrailing that road is a river. So you have the valley wall road, then you have the river, then you have the other valley wall. And so they call it Ambush Alley because the insurgents there would like to get up on that high ground and shoot at us. Shoot not necessarily at the SF guys, but a lot of the 10th Mountain and 173rd guys would get ambushed along this valley system quite a bit. So we get to Checkpoint Delta. We link up with the team. We link up with a National Guard unit, and then we head north up the valley system into the valley. And the insurgents had blocked off the road with boulders. So I had an opportunity to do a breach. And so
engineer shit. Attaboy. There you go.
Yeah. I'm all stoked. And it's a nice night too, man. It was about 30 degrees out, and
damn,
the moon was high, like good lube. Everything was perfect, And so we eventually we make it up to these switchbacks, and there's another boulder, so I get to blow that up. And then ISR, checked in with the JTAC and was like, hey, man, just to the east of your position, we got 40 dudes. and we think the guy that you're after is in that area. So we're like, all right, cool, man. So we set up this vehicular ambush, and I don't know if you ever got a chance to set up an ambush.
Nope.
I mean, most of the time we're reacting to an ambush, right?
Yeah.
Well, we actually set up an ambush, and which was initiated by our left side security, oddly enough, and we just
Wait, I gotta lie.
man.
Hold on, Javier, real quick. This is important. I did set up an ambush in basic training in our culminating training event. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, it's not too often. Like we do it all the time in training, but we never ever do it offensively. So so we set up this ambush. We set it off, man, and for by doctrine, an ambush is supposed to be like a mad minute, the first minute of all your, what you can get down. But we were there, man, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes before we let up.
Damn.
And then we let it go again, so we had some standoff with our 50 cals. Well, anyway, so Robbie was on the second vehicle he was on a Mark 19. So so he got some on that Mark 19. And so eventually, we reported up to higher that we're troops in contact, and we got the call to go do a battle damage assessment. So we put together a small team consisting of one guy from the Marines. He was a embedded tactical trainer, ETT, working with the Afghans that we were working with. And then you had myself, my team sergeant, my warrant, we just had this team. There was like 6 of the ODA members, and the rest were Afghans and that one Marine. Robbie was up front with our interpreters, and he was like, yeah, bro, I got it. I'll lead from the front. So it was awesome. So we get to moving, and we get to the other side of the river where we made contact, and we were in a file. And so it's Robbie, it's the Afghans, Robbie, then there's me, the JTAC, my Bravo, and then the rest of the team is behind me in a trailing element. And as the lead element gets up into this little draw, that's when the Afghans, the insurgents, kicked off their ambush. And so here, me, Robbie, the JTAC, and the Bravo, we're in the kill zone. And Robbie is just getting some, this is, now mind you, this is dark. It's pitch dark, so we have nods. We had our night vision devices on, and Robbie was the only one carrying the 249. He had a chop down 249, and he's rocking that. The rest of us had M4s that had the Surefire suppressors on them. So that's what we're rocking. And so you hear Robbie he's laying it, like, I'm just going to say, if he's firing his gun, he's killing somebody. That's the basic line. Because we couldn't catch up with him. He was shooting these dudes so fast, and there's a lot of dudes. I think he ended up shooting like 15 or 16 dudes. Between me and the Bravo, I think we shot maybe a handful, and then but yeah, it was a pretty, we were sitting there in the X. They can't see us, but we can see them type thing. And so at some point, Robbie says, break contact. And I think this is when he got hit. And so we're already in the file. And my captain had already reported in that he was hit. So Robbie, he lays down his last little bit of fire, and I'm waiting for him to move past me, because now I would be the lead guy. And oh yeah, by the way, the Afghans that were in the lead element, they took off. They just ran away. So they kind
of course they fucking did.
Yeah. The only ones that stayed behind was our interpreters, and they fought.
You know what? There's not going to be. There's never going to be any fucking Medal of Honors for the ANA. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, man, the interpreters stayed behind and fought side by side with us.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I love my interpreters. They're great dudes.
I have some great stories about those, man.
Yeah. So at this point, Robbie's by himself. He's ahead of me, maybe like 10 or 15 meters. And I see him on the ground. At this time, by this point in the firefight, the sun was light. There was daylight, but you couldn't see the sun. And and so Robbie was laying there, and I'm waiting for him to pass me so I can go from semi to full auto, and he doesn't move. So I was like, hey, Robbie's hit. And so the JTAC and I get up and bound up to Robbie. And I started immediately, at this point, we had just been taught tactical combat casualty care. I'm breaking all that, I'm not, that got tossed out of the window. So I'm taking fire and I'm doing first aid, which is wrong in every book, in every scenario. So I couldn't find the wound, and eventually I did. And by the time I found the wound, he was dead. And so the JTAC at this time was calling doing his 9 line for the bomb drop. And he so he called in 2 strafing runs, and on our position, danger close. And that bought us some time to try to pick up Robbie and move him. But, he was getting caught up in the rocks. We were slipping in the rocks. And so I was like, hey, man, Rob was like, hey, I'm going to die with Rob. Or our JTAC was like, I'm going to die here with Robbie. I'm not going to leave him. I go, dude, we need you to drop bombs. Yeah. So we hopped over a wall. By this time, the Marine had caught up with us because he was trying to herd the cats, the Afghans, to get them back into the fight. And once they did, he assisted us with trying to move Robbie. Between the 3 of us, we were just taking too much fire. So I made the decision, to make it back to the CCP, gather up forces, and come back to re-engage to get Robbie. I never made it back, but the rest of the team did. They were able to recover Rob. Once I got to the CCP, my team sergeant was like, hey, what's going on with you, man? I'm like, what do you mean? And he points at my chest. And I already knew this, but I had been shot twice at this point.
Holy fuck.
My chest plate. And so my magazine is all like frayed out. Yeah. And my push to talk on my radio is all shot up. So that, I kind of emotionally checked out at that point, and so it was determined that I was going to get back on the bird, and with the captain who's injured and the rest of the team's going to go get Robbie and bring him back home. So yeah, man, that was pretty rough, man. I beat myself up for years. Telling myself that it was my fault. I could have saved him. I felt like a coward. I felt like a coward because, I emotionally checked out, after, but then, I went to therapy and my therapist was like, hey, yo, you just saw a good buddy of yours on your team. He died in your arms. And then, and you had to face your own mortality.
Yeah.
So after that, I didn't feel so bad about it. I didn't feel so bad about my actions. I felt horrible that Robbie died, but I was able to face my own demons in a better way, and bring myself to a better place.
That's 12 years ago, man. How do you feel now? Not just telling the story, but how do you feel about what you just described
how you felt in the moment? Have you
So
made
it
peace
doesn't
with it?
bother.
Do you understand what you did and why you did it at that time, or?
Oh yeah. I have a full understanding of what my body was going through.
Right.
It could have happened. It could have happened sooner in that engagement. It just so happens that when I felt safe, it came crashing down on me,
Yeah.
And so, that's the price. I want to be a Green Beret,
Right.
and the price you pay for wanting to be a Ranger, a Green Beret, a soldier in the military is that, hey, yeah, you're gonna lose friends, whether it be drinking and driving, suicide, accidents, and even in war, And so, I think, and there's no way, there's nothing prepares you for that at all. And so, yeah, it was rough on me, man. It was really rough. So I try to, every this was it about a month or two ago. I put out, hey, call me if you're having a hard time. Give me a ring, and I put and DM me, and we'll talk on the phone. And that week, I must have talked to like 8 guys.
That's crazy, man.
From either the Goon, like who follow us on Goon, Twitter. Yeah,
the most hated group. The most hated group of Twitter.
Yeah,
which is ironic in its own right, but
yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, man, we like 8 guys called me up and was like, "Hey, I'm just having a rough time. How do you get through this? What, and it's all about resources, pointing guys towards resources, and getting them the resources needed to get the help that they really need. I mean, because it wasn't until I got out of the Army that I started seeing somebody, and it was funny because they were like, "Hey, dude, you're totally normal. You're absolutely normal.
Yeah.
You just, let's just talk this out." And I'm like, "All right, cool, man." So yeah, 2008 was rough, man, and I went into 2009 thinking I knew I shouldn't have gone into 2009 period, but I did it anyway, because it was my duty. 2010, was a rough year, but you know what? I was around good guys that team I was with was a solid team, and we just rocked.
Did you have anyone looking out for you though, personally, or was like, because it just sounds like, it almost sounds like, and if I'm wrong, I want you to correct me, but it almost sounds like, hey, as long as you're saying, which trust me, I get it. After 4 deployments and filling out those bullshit fucking PDHRAs myself, it almost sounds like if you say you're good, you're going back.
Yeah, basically, no one was there to say, and I wish somebody would have said, he put their arm around my shoulder and said, "You know what, Hav, you need to sit this one out."
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit. This is my problem. And look, now I'm gonna go fucking rant on this shit right now. Is because like after 19 fucking years of this shit, there's still no one saying to the men like yourself who do this shit way more than I do, or way more than the standard conventional Army or any of that other stuff. Like, you guys are the absolute fucking tip of the spear. You are the special operations you are the blunt hammer who's supposed to enact everything that we want to do. And then there's no one saying or checking like, hey, Javi, man, after everything you just went through, you just watched the dude that you died in your arms get the fucking Medal of Honor. Are you good to go do this again? Like, there's no one asking that question. That's a fucking problem, man.
It is. And two, I could have said something, but you know how it was back then.
Right. They rely on you to say something, but you know what?
Right.
Why would you? Knowing what you do and who you are,
right.
You're the last person to say something because of everything that bleeds into what you are. You're not going to, regardless of whether you think it's right or not, because you don't want to let your fucking team down.
Yep. And it was really rough, man. And so I was lucky. Like, so in 2010, the first unit, that team I was with, they all had some type of experience, except for a few. And they were motivated, man. I had a good team sergeant, had a good team leader, a methodical team leader. And we just went and wrecked house, man. It was like 2010 was great. And then my time came up, you know, but we started rotating back home, and I was the first to go home. And that's when Bo Bergdahl did his Dust One event. And then I missed that whole entire thing.
Good for you.
So after that, 2011 to 2013 was pretty chill. You know, I had some combat deployments, but they're at a capacity where I wasn't engaged. I wasn't decisively engaged. And then it wasn't until 2014-15, my last deployment, that we went back to running and gunning. So, and by that time, I was like done.
Where'd you go in 2014, 2015?
I was up in Mass.
I'm in Austin, okay. Because my last one was 2015, and I was between Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar,
I was at
UAE. So I don't know, man. Maybe we're in.
I'm pretty sure
together or some shit, or JTC and Jordan doing it, because I used to watch all you fucking special forces dudes do all the fun shit while we sat there and smoked hookah pipes. That's about it. Jordan,
you were there. You should have been there when the fifth group guy got shot, right?
What was it? 2015?
Was that 2 or was that 16? But yeah, man. So the last few years, you know, I had to. So I took an approach. I wanted to have a decisive approach getting out of the military, and that approach had to be deliberate every step of the way. You know, so I in 2013 trip to Afghanistan, I was working with a captain who was a National Guardsman, Special Forces National Guardsman team leader that he was an ROTC instructor. He was like, "Hey, man, it's the best thing I ever did." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "All right." He goes, "Would you recommend it for someone like myself transiting as a step of transitioning out of the military?" He goes, "Most definitely. You know, you get to go to school, you get to be around, you know, people, you try to get yourself climatized to certain events." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so I get there, and it was the best thing I could ever do, but it started off as the worst thing I ever did. Because, you know, you're so used to being around other Army dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And you get to the point where you're like, you want to tell this joke, only that another E7 or E8 would understand, but then you got all these, you know, 17, 18-year-old recruits sitting in front of you. You're like, man, you don't even get it.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
There's a little bit of loneliness there, you know. And then after that's when I started getting help and everything. And and I started my stepping stones out, started working on my degree, which I finally
got now. Go ahead and flex it, man. Flex it.
Man.
From? Where's that degree from?
University of Louisville.
He's a fucking Cardinal. Damn, didn't get that UCF degree, man.
UCF wouldn't accept me, man.
What? That's
dude. There's like they said I didn't have a foreign language. And
you
I was
know
like,
French.
I know French and Russian, you know. And they're like, that doesn't count. You have to have it at an accredited college. And I'm like,
that's such bullshit. That's
so
funny.
Yeah. So the ROTC program had for all its cadre this program called CFDC. So cadre facilitators, and the DC doesn't matter. Doctrination course. Yeah. And I took that, and it was aimed at organizational leadership and the developmental training or something. Yeah. Whatever my degree is in.
Yeah, no. It's like I said, man. That organizational leadership. It's a new discipline, but it's something. Like I said, I hope you roll into it and do the master's program, because you'll fucking crush it.
I'm gonna take a few years off, man.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, I got it.
Like,
I got all. Hey, anything you need, man. I got the. I still. They're all over there. I got every fucking book still in the damn program. Like, you know, don't buy them. I'll send them to you.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, that school going back to college put me in the hospital. And
so, in the hospital?
Yeah, dude. So I was going to school full time, teaching full time, doing family stuff, and a bunch of other stuff that was on my plate. And dude, I broke down on Thanksgiving, and I had to check myself into the hospital. My heart started beating real fast, and I passed out in my office. So,
damn.
Yeah, man, I had to go check myself in.
What fucking happened?
So I had to take a semester off.
Okay.
And then I finished it up, this summer. Or this last spring. So I'm pretty stoked.
Are you healthy otherwise? You figured out what the issue was, or?
Yeah, I'm just fat.
Hey, man, you know what? Look, I watched the videos. Look, it's good because you know what? You're one of the other goons who's like me, that just fucking records himself working out, poorly. My whole thing initially when I started my Instagram was just to make fun of,
CrossFit.
I do CrossFit, right? So my whole initial thing was like bad at CrossFit because it's me, like I'm doing CrossFit workouts and I'm okay at them, but I'm really fucking bad at them. So
right.
Because there's always those people who are like, oh, I'm so serious. I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games. I ain't going to the fucking CrossFit Games. I'm fucking 39 years old. I'm just here to fucking work out. And I do a few things good. And that's what it was. And now I switched it to good at bourbon. But I still post myself working out stupid and doing dumb shit. But no, I see you doing your work, man. That's fucking good. Like, you're
I try to put it in. I didn't put it in this morning, man. Yeah, I didn't put it in this morning. I woke up and I had the crud and I was like, oh man.
That's cool. You know when you know what you do in those moments? You do 100 burpees for time. That's it, man. Just knock it out.
That's what I heard, man. That's what I heard.
So I wanted to ask you though, just real quick about the ROTC thing that you mentioned, because I don't know, is it like a thing within the SF community? Because I've been to two. Well, so when I was a drill sergeant, we went out. They sent us out during a cycle break for whatever reason. We had like a 6-week cycle break, which never happens. But we were, to be fair, we were augmenting some other shit in 2009, and the surge was going on. So we had a cycle break, and they sent us out to Fort Lewis when they were still doing LDAC, which was the leadership development assessment course for ROTC cadets. It goes on at Fort Knox now, but at the time it was still in Fort Lewis. And that's certainly, I go back to what we said before we started recording, small world, the master sergeant of the ROTC program the NCOIC of everybody there at the time, he was one of the drill sergeants when I was at basic training.
Oh, wow.
He was in my company. He wasn't mine, but I remember it was Drill Sergeant Hunley. That motherfucker was the dude, iron fucking chiseled chin and everything.
Right.
And I still remember him saying, Sergeant Ski, or not Sergeant at the time. He's like, Private Ski, I will fuck you up. You fuck up my wing. And I remember going up to him, and I got a parade rest because he was an E8 at the time. I was a little E6. I was like, hey, Master Sergeant Hunley, do you remember Fort Jackson, this bullshit? He's like, yeah, Sergeant Ski, and I'll still fuck you up. But it's a small world. But I bring that up because two of the other cadre that were out there at the time, I remember seeing them. They had the fucking long tab on, and I was just like, man, what's FSF doing out at fucking ROTC? And then when I first came out to do recruiting, I was out at Sacramento State, and I went and met with the OIC at the time. But her NCOIC was another, I think it was an E7 or an E8, probably an E7. But another SF dude, and I was just wondering, like, is that something that you guys get offered to kind of, I don't know if it's a broadening assignment or if it's something to kind of get you guys out of the fucking operational environment for a while or what?
Yeah, for me, it was like, hey, you know what, Hoff? Thanks. You put in 10 hard years, and guess what, man? You
got UCF. Like, what's better than that, man?
Yeah, man. And so, and a lot of SF guys, I tell them, like I just got my third group guy replaced me over at UCF, and he called me up. And the same day, I had a 7th group guy call me, and he was working over at Tampa, and he was like, "Yeah, man." The guy from Tampa, he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just looking to chill out. I've been here at Tampa for the last few years," and I'm like, "Dude, you've been hiding out. You know what? Screw you. you haven't been doing anything if you're at Tampa, right? So my buddy called me up and he was like, "Hey man, I really need this break." And I'm like, "All right, yo, I got you." He was on the SIF, and so those guys are gone all the time. So
Yeah.
when he said he needed a break, I knew he needed a break, and I was out the door. So I was on my way out the door. So yeah, I dropped his name in the hat, and I was like, I called up HRC, and I was like, "Hey, this is the guy right here. This is who we need." And he looks like he and I could be brothers, you know, two big black dudes, you know. And he shows up. He shows up to introduce himself before he shows up, right? And I'm still there in uniform. And they were like, they saw like you see us stand next to one another.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, we can wreck house, you know. So yeah, the cadets were all like big eyed, and but yeah, you know, wearing that tab, man, I took it serious. I try to be the best. I try to be the best me I could be out there, you know.
Yeah, that's
because it took me so long to get it.
Exactly.
I wasn't
going to
take
that fucking thing, man.
You know,
Well,
I wasn't going to take that crap, man.
That's the other thing, though. I think what this is what's good because, like I said, I had so I joined the reserves initially, and whatever the way the world was, like we were mobilized to go support the operation in Iraq during the invasion. Like I spent a lot of time on active duty in the reserves, but I remember going and doing the drill sergeant program through the reserves, and you know I did the Fort Benning thing, which I told you about, and then my last probably year. Last 6 months was at Fort Knox doing this LDAC, well, not LDAC, LTC, but at Fort Knox with ROTC cadets. But what I think is important, man, is those kids need to see guys like yourself. They need to see the absolute fucking best of what the Army offers. They don't need to see the fucking 92 golf. And no offense to cooks and shit, but they don't need to see that guy who's like an E6 92 golf. Like that's nothing that's going to inspire. And it's going to look, I don't give a fuck, man. This is my podcast, whatever. It comes off bad. I got it. But you know what? No one gives an E6 92 golf or a 92 5, anything in the 92 series outside of Alpha and fucking, you know, is not going to inspire people, but they need to see 17, 18, 19-year-old kids who are coming in to become officers in the United States Army. They need to see men like yourself or women who've been there and done that. Let's put it that way. They need to see that, especially in this environment, because we're shutting down a lot of this stuff, man. There's not a lot of people doing these things anymore. So they need to see men and women like yourself with the fucking combat patches, with all the cool guy badges, the tabs, all that shit, because you want to inspire this next group of people coming in who they're taking our place, and you want them to try and aspire and live up to what it is that you did and have those experiences.
Yeah, you know, it was awesome. Like when I first joined it, because I went to Fort Jackson too for
hell yeah, what up, Charlie 161? What up? No,
I was in the Scouts Out. I don't even know what battalion.
Scouts Out. Everybody Scouts Out, man.
Scouts Out.
Scouts Out.
But I remember like every NCO I saw was like a god, you know, like
yep, yeah, absolutely.
EIB at the time, you know, Jump Master, you know, senior parachutist, Air Assault, Pathfinder, you know, and back in the day that was a big. And then, you know, then you get around guys who, so like going back to like when I first started, I was in the Fort Campbell. I was the only lower enlisted in my company, in my battalion, with both airborne and air assault wings.
It's cool shit.
And it wasn't because I was high speed; it's because I worked the system.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. No, trust me, I know.
I worked the system, you know, and so I was very fortunate. But at the end of the day, man, it's you know, that didn't, like when I got into SF. Those badges didn't matter anymore, man. It was about it was about, because you know, in a regular Army, that's all you have sometimes to move ahead, you know, to make you stand out and stand out differently from your peers. But in SF, man, all they really cared about was, hey, I need you to be proficient enough to talk to some, local national and get them to shoot their weapon in the right direction, and so that was, it wasn't what you had on your uniform that made you who you were. It was your reputation. It was what you could do at the end of the day, So, and I really looked up to, but when I was in the 82nd and 101st, I really looked up to my NCOs who had all those scary, because I wanted that experience. And I'm kind of glad when we went to the ACU uniform, it was all that stuff became optional. And so, we
kind of also ugly. Let's point that out.
Yeah, they were ugly. Yeah, they were. That was the worst thing. Like, how many uniform changes did we go through in our career?
Dude, shit. I came in 2002, so you were a few years before me, but you saw the same shit. We went to BDUs, to DCUs, to ACUs, to the OCP. Well, no, then we went to multicam. Then we went to OCPs where we're at now. But like I was talking about in the group, like to me, like the funniest shit that we've experienced is the boots. Like we've gone through this entire iteration where like civilian companies never participated, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like you probably know this better. Like if you joined in 98, did you have an option to buy anything that wasn't Army issued? Like,
no.
Exactly. No. Right. But now you're inundated with it. You go to the PX and you can find literally everything you want to find online you can do. And I don't know if it's all started from veterans or people who connected to veterans, but man, when I went, like, I remember in 2003, when we got mobilized to go into Iraq, and I went to CIF and I was told they didn't have my boots because I had the most popular boot size. So I had to get a size and a half up, because I wasn't a priority. I wasn't a fucking infantry guy.
It was like a 10 regular.
Yeah, exactly. 10 regular. They gave me 11 and a half regular. I was like, oh, all right, well, I'll make it work. And I got two DCU uniforms because they just didn't have the supply, whatever. That's fine. But I just remember I talked about this morning, like they gave us those, like the initial desert boots were those, they were modeled after the jungle boot with that sole. Yeah. And like all of us because I mobilized out of Fort Stewart in Georgia to go to Iraq. We took it down to the Korean lady at the boot store. Like, hey, change our soles out. We put the ripple soles on because I was that lasted. But it's just crazy to me to see like the evolution in equipment from 2003 to now, man. It's just it's.
You remember shining your boots, like the ritual you would go through?
Well, that's what dude. My biggest thing when I became a drill sergeant, I was like, what the fuck are we supposed to do with privates? Because like literally 50% of my time in basic training in AIT was shining boots. How do we make up that time?
Right.
Like.
Yeah, dude.
It's gone, man. It's gone. It's
like you would go home. I remember going home, hanging up, taking off my uniform, ironing it, starching it, and then because we were poor, you had to do it yourself.
Especially with the BDU, man.
And then like every once a month, it was a treat for me to get my uniforms pressed.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit there, watch Fox News, and spit shine my boots with cheesecloth, and that was life, and and then we went to the desert boots, and it was like
they were shitty, man. I don't know what you guys got, but I know what we got.
Yeah, we got the desert boots, like the regular, like the Belleville desert boots.
Yeah. But it was, to me, like the issue was like, you're giving us these boots with the platform of that jungle boot sole, which was like those little squares on the bottom, right? With like, like I'm like, what environment does this fucking work in? It doesn't work in urban. It doesn't work in sand, but hey, here you go. Here's the initial issue. Go, go defeat Iraq.
Yeah. Now you can't find a pair of boots that's less than $200.
Right. Nothing good, that's for sure.
Nothing good, yeah. I was like, went online looking for some Bellevilles, and they were like $187. I was like, holy crap.
Yep. I wear the Nike at this point. What's it? The SFB, the Special Field Boot.
Yeah, they have the little soft sole.
Well, the first gen was super soft, right? And now those became illegal fairly quick on post. And so Nike went and did away with it. And like the SFB2 that they have now, that version, that sole is a fucking beast, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wore that first one for my last deployment, and then I got this SFB2. I got them about a year and a half ago. They've got like the sole on the inside is for rope climbing, which is odd, right? Because it's like, right. But it's all it's like shark toothed on the inside, and then you know the interior or the external sole is just, it's super hard. Man, I've had that boot for a year and a half, and there's not an ounce of wear on it. Like it doesn't wear down. It's a little heavier than the first gen. The first gen was like perfect. It was 9 ounces. It was the boot for like marching, because we got those when we were drill sergeants and those first came out. Man, if you wanted to do a ruck march, that was the boot to wear. It was 9 ounces. You couldn't even feel it. It was perfect for that, but it wore down super quick. And now this one is perfect. Like the Nike boot to me is the perfect. You know how Americans are, man. We need to. It has to look good. I don't care if it works, but does it look good?
Yeah. So funny thing about boots, man. So it was 2010. We were doing the Marja push, and we do this hit, and it was like one of the last hits we did while I was with while we were down there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we're taking CH-47s in Chinook helicopters, and I was in the lead element. So we come in, we land, and the crew chief was like, "Hey, it's muddy." And so we're like, "All right, cool." So I'm out with my dog. We were the first ones off the bird, and I'm leading my assault element to a wall. Well, my foot sinks. I got these brand new approach shoes. These things were awesome. You know, they were comfortable. They were great. They had great grip, great traction. And I went down to my knee into the mud, and my job was to get to the wall and blow a hole in the wall so that we could continue on with the assault. Well, I'm sitting there forcing my leg out, and I lose my shoe. These, $150 shoes. I lose my right shoe. So now, I got a job to do. I got to go blow this hole in the wall. I ended up not doing it because there was a door there, and then we were going to blow the door. Then I twisted the knob, and it was open, so we went pouring through. Well, anyway, we went and we did the whole assault, and I had one shoe on and running around in my sock. And I had to break into one of the bizarre shops and steal and find the flip flop. And so the only flip flop I could find was like a size, like it was like 4 sizes too small, and it was the wrong foot. So apparently Afghans all have left feet. So I'm walking around the objective. We're doing this mission. I'm missing a shoe. I got a flip flop duct tape to my sock, and I'm running around. So it's like little things like that you really miss about combat. Just little funny stories.
It's just shit like that, man. That like people they never consider it. You know what I mean? Like, have you watched The Outpost yet? Have you seen it?
No. So yeah, I wasn't far away from our fire base supported that outpost.
Yeah, no, but what's pretty cool is like one of my guys in my office, he was there, as a 19-year-old PFC, and I've heard all his stories about it. But no, I just think that's like a perfect example of like it showed like the actual movie. It overlaps a ton of stories, and a lot of those dudes are upset about it because I get it. I'll never talk about what people want something to be, but it is what it is. It's fucking Hollywood. We don't control it.
Right.
But it shows a lot of like the dumb shit and the dumb situations that present themselves. And like people are they take the shit for granted, and they think like
that happened. Yeah, that fucking happened because you know what? Fucking dumb shit happens in those situations and you overcome it. But don't get it twisted. Don't confuse it. The fucking enemy, they got some dumb shit that they got to deal with too. We're just happen to be a little better at it.
Right. So in 2006, we were up there doing an assessment at Cop Keaton. And at the time we called it Camdesh. We didn't Bob Camdesh. We didn't call it Cop Keaton because I don't think he had died at that point.
Yeah, the commander was still
Lieutenant Keaton.
Which is a fucked up situation all on its own, but whatever. You know.
Right. So just to paint a picture, you got high ground all the way around, and the fire base, the cop is at where 90 degrees meet, like where two lines meet at 90 degrees, and they're at the lowest point in the valley, the lowest point. I mean, if I walked up a hill if I went uphill like 20 feet, I would be standing above the HESCO barriers. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
The morale was really bad. It was just horrible. So we were up there. We were planning on doing a hit, and just in the location north of their cop, because that's where they kept getting hit. So there was this private man. Real short story. So he was having some issues. He was on the LRAS. I don't know if you ever messed around with the LRAS.
It's that scout shit, right? Long range, whatever.
Yeah, it's like this big box, and it does night vision, thermal, laser range find.
Fucking scout shit. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so I think it was like the first night we were there, and oh boy, this private is sitting in the turret, and he's like, I'm going around checking the perimeter, and I was like, hey man, how's it going? And he was like, hey, I see two guys. Looks like they're setting up a mortar. I go, did you call it in? He goes, I'm afraid to. I'm like, are you kidding me? Call it in. He goes, I'm afraid if I say the wrong thing, my staff sergeant is going to get mad at me. I'm like, all right, let me see what you see. And so we wrote everything down. It was like, sure enough, yeah, these guys are setting up a mortar. These insurgents. So I get on the radio. I was like, hey, Lieutenant Daddy, come here. He comes over here, and he's like, why are you on my radio? I go, well, you got a private here who has a report. You got a mortar position setting up. Here's your call for fire.
Yeah.
Go. And so he runs back. He goes, I'll deal with you later. And so I'm sitting there with the kid. I'm saying, hey, just focus on what's going on in the LRAS. Let me know if anything changes. So, man, they launch. So he gets back to the mortar pit, the platoon sergeant does, and they launch some mortars. Miss, and they're like 45 degrees off. I mean, that's a huge variant, and you can't even bracket in at that point. You got to reset the gun. So they're trying to reset the gun. These guys are trying to set up their gun. And finally, I was like, hey, dude, just open up with your saw and shoot. And he was like, no, I can't. I'll get in trouble. So I'm glad he did, because as we were talking about this, the unit sent down a QRF squad down the road to go interdict these guys. They ended up killing them guys. But the moral of the story was these guys were at Cop Keaton. Their morale is in the dirt. They're tired. They're sitting on low ground. They have security sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised it went on as long as it did, and they didn't do this sooner.
What year was that? Was that when you were there?
I was there, and that was 2006, the first time I went there.
Okay, so that was before this whole shit. Okay, yeah. I was just curious. No, because I want to talk to my guy and tell him, hey, listen, go to the 2-hour mark and listen to this shit, because I feel like to me this ties into what I talked with Joe Kent last night. Is like, man, we're in this constant state of reset and hey, it's the next rotation in, and we don't allow forget continuity. We don't allow for finish your fucking job.
Yeah, right.
And I tie it back to World War II. And this is just a very broad hypothesis, but it's like, you know, when everyone went away for World War II, that's what you were going to do. You'll come back when the fucking job's done. Right. And now it's like, we are so built in, and we have so much ingrained with these 9-month deployments, and this is our rotation. And when the next group comes in, they completely do whatever the fuck they want to do. And they totally disregard the previous deployment or whoever you replace. Cause I've seen it. I mean, I have, man, I hate to say it, but it's like, you see what the person did before you, and it's like, watch what I do. Right. And I feel that like that's, I was always taught, leave your foxhole better than what you found it. Right. And I don't think we do that anymore, man. Like, we don't build that grenade sump. You know, we don't check the level. We don't check it. We don't do any of that. We go and build a new fucking foxhole.
Right.
And I think that's the issue, man. Like, because you know what, let me get your take on this, because as a man who's been there and done that multiple years, fucking 7 deployments, if you guys don't know, like Javier's been through. But man, you joined in 1998. You went to selection in 2001 after 9/11 happened. You finally got there and did all the stuff that you did. You laid out in like just great detail of what it was like to be with someone who was awarded the Medal of Honor. Like, you've been there and done everything a U.S. soldier is expected to do. And I'm just curious what you feel like, man, after knowing, like, dude, we're in 19 years of war and it doesn't seem like it's ending, despite all of our politicians, our president's best intentions. How do you feel in 2020, man, knowing the stuff that you joined on, knowing the stuff, put it this way, the stuff that's going on now didn't exist in 1998 when you joined. You went to selection 2 months after 9/11. This stuff's still going on. You had an entire career. You've since retired from the Army. It's still ongoing. How does that make you feel, man?
Dude, it depresses me, because, I mean, we could have gone on and done so much. We could have done so much more. I think personally, we should have got rid of PowerPoint and got officers back. Yeah, and got officers back in the field, in combat, conducting combat operations. I mean, how many lieutenant colonels did you see pull the trigger? You know, how many sergeant majors did you see, you know, out there running logistics, you know, running the casualty collection, the big casualty collection points. You know, the thing is, if you want a war to get over quick, fast, in a hurry, you just think of Desert Storm. You know, all the generals in their major commands, there were boots on the ground. They weren't sitting back in, you know, a distant fob. You know, they were actually boots on the ground, you know, doing, you know, commanding things. They were running things. And so, yeah, you get rid of PowerPoint, you get rid of presentations, you get rid of automation, and you get the colonels back, those lieutenant colonels back in the field.
Most important officer, I feel.
Yeah, you know, you remember watching Patton?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, his whole S shop was always on the move, you know, and they never hunkered. You know, they would hunker down for a few days, but you know what? They were always on the move. They were getting dirty, and that's the thing, man. You want this war to get over, get the officers out of the air-conditioned command centers and get them on the ground making decisions, you know, getting in the fight. And I think that's where we're going to be at, man, until they get back to that mindset. Because if we fight against the Russians and we fight against the Chinese, guess where their officers are going to be? They're going to be on the ground. They're going to be on the ground commanding troops, because that's the way they're designed, you know.
That's interesting that you bring that up.
Thank goodness we have NCOs, because without it, we don't need an officer. You know, I don't say that to like toot my own horn. I mean,
no, but your specialty is a little different, man. Absolutely.
No, even in the regular Army, our NCO has more. Our senior NCOs have more competence than most other countries' senior officers.
Right.
So it's we will be fine without those officers in the field. You know, that kind of just kind of like negates everything I said about getting officers out there. But
no,
I don't really. I honestly think if you want to get this over with, I think getting the officers back in the field fighting, then they won't be out to chase some cush command that they know they're going to spend 9 months in a air conditioned talk.
So I have two stories along that line, and he's our current. He's no longer the Army Chief of Staff. He's the Joint Chief of Staff, and that's General Milley from the Army, right? So I first met General Milley in 2013 when I was in Afghanistan. He was the IJC commander in Afghanistan. He was a 3-star general at the time. And I would just, based on what I got to do at the time, I was fortunate enough to sit in his weekly IJC briefs because it was just part of my battle rhythm, right? And I remember very distinctly two scenarios. One was there was a tick that was reported up, troops in contact was pointed up, and he sat there. He was very measured. He took in all the information, and what he put back was, never doubt the soldier behind the front sight post. That was his thing. That was what he said. Like, that was his saying, don't doubt the man or woman behind the front sight post. And I took away from that. I was an NCOIC at a staff level at that point. And I was just like, man, that's fucking cool to hear. Like, this is the guy, aside from General Dunford at the time in the region, like, this is the dude. And he was saying, hey, like, whatever you do, don't sit there and try and fucking undermine what your men and women at the actual operational level are doing. You guys are at the strategic level. You're getting big picture on everything, but don't doubt and don't try and undermine that man or woman behind the front sight post. And I thought that was a great message. And then the other story was, I love this shit. So again, we're in an IJC brief. In the middle of it, a tick comes up again. And I remember he asked, like, well, what unit is this? What's going on? Because it was literally ongoing while the brief was going. And this company commander speaks up and he's like, hey, hey, sir, that's my unit. And I instantly he fires back, why aren't you there?
Right. Right.
And this company commander had no answer because, I no, don't get me wrong. Like, I empathize with that company commander, but I also can see both sides. Like, hey, you know what? You're sending your entire company out on a fucking convoy during a black road, and you're not there with them. That kind of speaks to exactly what you said. Like, these officers need to be out there with their soldiers. But then also, that was also the instinct to me. That's what I initially took away from it. The instinct from General Milley, a man, if you read this fucker's bio, this dude's done everything from the platoon leader on in combat. Like, General Milley's bio will – not you, but me. He'll make you feel inadequate because of his bio. Right. Like, it's fucking insane.
Well, the thing is,
yeah, go for it.
No, so along that note, though, is the captains are out there. No doubt. Yeah. The captains and lieutenants, they're out there. I'm talking about
a choice.
The field grades. The field grades need to be out there. Like, I can tell you every battalion commander that I've ever served under has been on an operation with me.
Okay.
That,
do you think that's because you're SF though, and it's kind of expected, or what?
No, it's not expected at all, man.
Okay. No, okay, that's fair. That's good.
But I've gone out I've had 3 or 4 battalion commanders, and every single one of them gone out on a mission with us. And it was nice, it was nice to see them out there. They weren't out there to like take charge of the mission or anything, but they were out there to see, just to see what we're doing. And were they slinging lead? Nope, not once. They never got into a tick with us, but if we did, it would have been awesome because we had instant approval right there, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, but on the other side of it, you know, I can sit here all day and complain about officers not being out in the field, but their resource, you know, officers' main job is to be resource managers, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah, you're right.
What better way is, you know, for them to be in a position, where they are back in the rear, where they can be that resource manager and making sure you're getting the air that you need, making sure you're getting, you know, logistical runs out, that class 5 and class 6 logistical runs when you're running low on chow and ammo, you know. So
we know what class 6 means, bro. You want your fucking bourbon. We got you.
But yeah, you picking up what I'm picking down, man. It's real important to get those off. I feel like the more officers are out in the maneuver elements, the faster these wars we get over. You know, just because they're in the trenches, they're seeing what the guys are going through. I'm tired of, you know, watching movies where it's just the lowest guys on the it's the guys like you and me that are putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, and then, you know, there's those guys who get to go home and you know, we may not get to go home and see mama, but, you know, there's that rear echelon guy who's at the Green Bean and Pizza Hut, you know, they just shoving their face full of, you know, they're serving their country, you know, and they're probably doing a really good job.
They are.
But,
you know, doing what they're supposed to do at that point. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, But there's that heart that is always, it's like that feeling of, you know, I really don't want to poop on their service. You know, I really don't want to crap all over how they serve because they're out there. At least they're out there, you know. Would I want them outside the wire? No, because they're probably, you know, hurt themselves just walking outside the, you know, going outside the wire, you know. And so I'd rather for them to be doing whatever they're doing in the fob, drinking all the green bean, going to salsa night, and working out the gym, you know.
Yeah, you know, man, because I've seen it all through the 4 deployments, man. So I've seen it all from that level of where you're going out and doing stuff, but then you're also, you get to do salsa night. So I've seen it all.
You know, and they need it. You know, those guys need it.
You do, but it's almost separate from what you guys do, man, because your deployments aren't. Your stuff tends to be very focused on a specific thing, and ours are just like, hey, man, it's your next time in the rotation, right? So
yeah. Well, you know what? I don't want to like diminish anybody's.
No, I don't think you are. I just, but enough people. I think we get it, man. Like whoever's going to listen to this is going to get it. Like they understand. Like there's a segment, and I'm a part of that segment. Who I don't go out and do DA direct action shit like you do. Okay, I got it.
Right.
But at the same time, being where I was on the last 2 deployments, I'm not fucking participating in salsa night because I don't fucking want to do that shit. I just want to go sit in my fucking room and go to sleep. But if there's poker night, I'll go play poker because I did do that in Afghanistan a lot. And I just want to work out and get in shape. That's all I did. Like that was my deployment. I did my job and I fucking worked out twice a week. That's why I said to Joe last night, and then without getting into details, like, man, I love being deployed because I didn't do what you guys did, but I loved what I was able to do for myself personally. I was able to finish 1 degree. I was able to just work out constantly in terms of doing, like, I had 12-hour days of my job, but man, all the other time that I could fill, it was all about myself. Like it was working on me. And I love that. I don't have that anymore.
You know, and I missed, I can say the same, you know, even though we were probably doing missions and stuff, you know, there's a lot of time I can focus on just me, you know.
Yeah.
And I can contemplate the mysteries of, you know, Call of Duty, you know, for the 19th time.
Man, I was trying to figure out the fucking mysteries of Madden. I've been figuring that shit out since Iraq in 2003, man. That's a great story. I'll have to tell you another time, but
But yeah, dude, this has been I love talking about my career, but more importantly, I like to talk about where we're at today. And, I'm in
that's what I want to get into next, man, before we get out of here. I tried to find it. I don't know if you took it off or if I just overlooked it, but a few weeks ago you posted a great video that I think a lot of people took a lot of, whether it was motivation or just, it just kind of spoke to what a lot of people were thinking. But what do you think, man? Like, as a man like yourself, who's you're married, you have a family, like you're out of the military at this point, you have to rely on the others that come after you. But where do you think we are right now, man, in this country? Like, what is your takeaway as we lead into this new election?
I think so. I think we're in a place where we haven't been. How, like, when we do a field exercise and we exercise all the, you exercise your retrans or your convoy operations, your refueling operations, and you look for snags in the problem set, right?
Yep.
I think that's where we're at right now. We're our way of life is being stressed, and we're right now. I guarantee the government is taking notes on what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what talking points can I say to get people to go one direction? How can I get them? I think there's a lot of. I'm not saying that the government's trying to manipulate us, but they're looking at how we're reacting to things, and so as a man looking at all this, I don't know what to think, because half the time I think I got it right, and then I find out I don't have it right, it just, and the video you're talking about is, I told, don't be, I'm all like, look, man, a lot of us, I want people to be proud of who they are, regardless if they're black, white, green, red, gay, straight, transsexual, mutant, teenage turtle. I don't care. As long as you're proud of who you are, and you want, I'm gonna give you that respect and that recognition.
Yeah.
What I ask in return, is the same. And
Exactly.
Today we're not seeing that, man. We're seeing just a one way. It has to be my way or the highway. And so it's forcing people to do a couple things. If you're white, it's forcing you to say, hey, do you like black people? And yeah. Yeah, I love black people, and I love them, and no, dude, look, check this out. I just want people to say, look, hey, I have my opinions. I can voice my opinions, and whoever asks for that opinion, you need to take it. You don't need to get all upset and, start name calling and all these other things, and because I have two biracial daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and nowadays, to hear them say, hey, I've never, I don't receive racism from people that don't look like me. I get racism from people who do look like me, and so
yes,
and I'm like, holy crap, and I experienced the same thing, I experienced, because there's this thought out there that those of us who work hard, who are black and work hard for what we got, we forget. It's this preconception that we forget, or we're bootlickers, or we're Uncle Toms. We forget where we come from. And it's not necessarily the case. It's like, if you ever built something and you're proud of it, what work you put into it. Like, I went to selection and I worked for that. I worked for that.
Something that fucking most people will never fucking finish, and you did it.
Right, and so that's something you can never take away from me until you start chipping away at the very things that got me to there, I'm a patriot, man. I'm a patriot first. I love my country, And I told my wife, I would probably be one of these guys. I would probably be considered a terrorist if things didn't go the way that I think. Because I think I would probably go down that route. I wouldn't. I wouldn't tell people what I was doing, but I would be doing it. Because a lot of times people do those things. They join militias. They carry around guns openly to stroke their ego. I'm like, you know what, dude? I don't need all that. You don't need all that. Those guys who are doing that, they have some identity. They're in an identity crisis. And they think they're young. You're 39, I'm 45. Once you hit 40, man, you start to look things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I can see that. So that's why I was going to ask you, did you get a chance to read Grunt's, his whole little piece on open carry and why he does it?
Yeah, I sure did. And I guess the problem I don't have a problem with people practicing their Second Amendment right. Not whatsoever. You do you. You go around Fayetteville, and it's common to see guys walking around open carry. The biggest problem I have is like holster choices. Yeah, or the type of holsters they're using, or what's the purpose? Why are you open carry? Is it that bad in Fayetteville that you have to have your weapon out? Or is it you just want to practice your Second Amendment right, and you can't afford to get your concealed carry, because getting your concealed carry in Fayetteville is extreme. It's a process, bro. If you're in the military,
yeah,
like it's a process. So it's not like Florida where you go and fill out a couple forms, and then the next thing you know you're strapped. It's like it was extremely easy to get my concealed carry here as compared to getting it in North Carolina. It was, I had to get a commander signature, and then I had to do this and I had to do that. So yeah, Second Amendment, I'm all about it, but I mean, you got to be smart. You don't want to get people all riled up, because a lot of people aren't, believe it or not, regardless, people aren't comfortable with people open carrying.
No, I can see both sides of it.
Yeah.
I think if I try to, but it's hard because and this is what I try to always present when we do our weekly episodes of There Will Be Banter is, the hallmark of is everyone sees whatever issue it is. We all see it through our own individual lens, and everyone's going to see it different. So if I go to wherever and I see dudes doing open carry or whatever, I'm not gonna care because I've been around guns my military career. Like that, none of that bothers me. But my girl, she's never even fired a weapon before in her life, right? So that's gonna be completely different. My daughter, 14 years old, I've had her shoot rifles her whole, since she's been old enough to do it. It's a little different. She may not feel the same. She might just be like, oh, wow, that dude's got a gun. But that's the individual lens that we view things from, right? So we take that as an experience, and it's completely different from myself, her, my daughter. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from, where it could be, hey, that's a little, I don't want to use antagonistic as the word, but maybe it is to their feelings. It's antagonistic. Yeah. But someone like myself and you were like, all right, it's a dude walking around with a fucking, he's got a pistol, his belt, whatever. He's,
It's usually like some young guy, right?
You think
it's
so?
Usually like between the ages of 20, 21 and 34,
Trying to live out their military service that they never did, maybe.
Right. Or just, they're just, the most dangerous age group is 14 to 34. And
okay,
if you look at the looters and the rioters,
Yeah.
the age demographic, I guarantee 90% of them fit that range. 14 to 34.
You know what's interesting that you say that though. I feel like now you know Demp McGee on
Yep.
Twitter, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a few weeks ago back when there was some tension. It might have been after the Kenosha thing or while the Kenosha, Wisconsin thing was going on with Kyle Rittenhouse. But he wrote, it was one of those throwaway tweets. And I don't even know how much traction it got, but he was just like, so you're saying there's like this group of like 35 to 45-year-old men in America and you're going to tell them it's on and they're just going to be like, all right, well, I guess it's on. Because that's what I think. Like it's 35 to 45, like us, bro. Like you're, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like men in this age group who've gone through the global war on terror, who've got military experience, whatever. It's like, yeah, I can see where you're saying like the 14 to 34-year-old demographic. Mainly, I would say in my experience out in California, like I would put it at more like 16 to 23 who are super. I wouldn't say they're violent. They're just super impressionable because that's like that's the age where you can mold these fucking people into whatever you want them to do. But Demp was right. Like, look, 35 to 45-year-old men, I ain't, especially in this era, I'm not trying to fuck with any of these dudes, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because the experience is there, the training's there, the equipment's there. They got everything. And you just got to hope you're rolling into the property or whatever of someone who never actually followed through on any of that time that you and I, like, we grew up through this. Like, you just want to hope that they didn't respond to the call from 9/11 or whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where I sit back and I'm like, and I say 14 to 30, 34.
Yeah.
Because 14 is when you start, you really start.
You're aware.
Yeah, you start to choose sides.
Yep.
And then but yeah, 16, I think 16 is your danger zone. Those guys are riding in the red the whole time. And then, about 23, 24-ish, they start to, they get a girl pregnant. They failed out, they go into the military, they fail at a few things. And so they kind of back off. But the thing is, man, you look at that age group, you're going to see very few 35 to 40-year-old guys, regardless of where their background is, out there looting and tearing it up. You're going to see that age group, that one age group. And it's a scary demographic because
it is. No, you're right.
I mean, because when we were that age, we were either in the military or we had somebody controlling our lives.
Good old mission command, command and control, whatever it is, whatever term you know it as. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so it's and I feel like more people like myself are starting to talk more. Like we're starting to speak up, or we're starting to have a voice. A voice that's not, a rap lyric, a voice that's not on a basketball court or a football field, but a voice of, hey, look, we're hard working people and we're getting our stuff done and we don't want you to mess that up, So, and I go through, and I'm not talking about, me being black or anything. I'm talking about just,
there's a generation, man.
Yeah, it's our generation. We're like, hey, man, we put in some work,
right?
And now you want to destroy it, So,
see, that's the other thing, man. Like, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. It's our generation. Like, I think men like you and I at our age group, 39 to 45, whatever it is, we grew up at a time where I think we benefited from a lot of the racial tension in this country. Like, you go back to the Rodney King riots in 1992 in LA. Like, we came out of that. We grew up post that. And our school systems were in a point, at least mine was, man, I grew up in fucking Poinciana, Florida. A lot of black, Hispanic, whatever, white. We grew up around each other. Like, we never had animosity racially. We just fucking lived and grew up around each other. And I feel like guys like us, like, this is what we grew up and we knew it. Like, anything that we experience, we can define as the American experience. We don't try and like oh, let's pigeon toe it into, oh no, this was Javier and his black experience, or no, this was Eric and his white.
Right.
No, we were Americans experiencing this shit, and here's where we're at right now. And as far as I see it, is like, you fuck with our fucking country, you're fucking with all of us. We're not gonna pick fucking racial sides. Like, you're my brother, you're my sister. I don't give a fuck what you look like. We're Americans. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, it is exactly, man. That's exactly what I'm talking about, dude. Like, I grew up in, I went to high school in Lodi.
Okay, yeah.
And Lodi is so white that they had to bust kids from Stockton and diversify it.
Yeah,
and that's basically what they did, you know. And I was truly grateful for it, dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got the best education I could ever think of. I made some of the best friends I could ever make, that I still keep in contact with to this day. You know, and they're Filipino, white, black, Mexican.
Laotian, absolutely.
You know, so it's just it blows my mind that, you know, this whole Black Lives Matter and this whole thought of, hey, we're gonna prop up a rapist. We're gonna riot and loot because a cop was protecting himself in self-defense. It makes no sense. We got back in the day, our basketball players and football players were speaking out against the stupidity. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley. He was known for it. He had Shaquille O'Neal. Who these guys are stand-up dudes outside of professional, but they never took it to the court. They never took it to the court. It was always, hey, we're talking about it offline, so.
Well, that's my thing, and it's gonna be the opening feature on Thursday when we talk about On There Will Be Banter. Is just like, look, you got the NBA playoff games that took place on September 11th. You have every one of those athletes taking a knee on September 11th.
Right.
And my thing, as I pointed out to our group, and look, this is already the Clippers are about to lose. Like, they got a minute left. They're down by 18. So it's kind of a shame because, Doc Rivers is the coach of the Clippers, and Doc Rivers was the one that said, hey, when they had that big player meeting a few weeks ago when they decided to postpone the games over, I think it was the shooting, and I don't know if it was Kenosha. Yeah, it was Kenosha. So that was it. When they decided to postpone those games, and they had that big player meeting with a few coaches, and Doc Rivers was featured, and he was the one that said, hey, you know what? It's great that you guys are so motivated for change. And, I can support everybody being down for, change to make everyone's lives in this country better. But when he says 20% of you are registered to vote, 20%, you guys are out here fucking preaching on your social media accounts and talking about all this shit, and there's only 1 in 5 of you are actually registered to vote. Man, get the fuck out of here. Like, who are you talking to?
Yeah, exactly. and then how many of those guys that are looting and rioting are registered to vote?
Exactly. Furthermore, it's like, man, like, my thing is, and I've said this, and I need to refine it to include Hollywood actors, but I feel like Hollywood actors are a smaller portion. But I said, and I will talk about it as much as I can on Thursday, outside of the politicians in this country, and we'll lump in Hollywood, but outside of politicians in Hollywood, athletes in this country are the most detached fucking people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these dudes have been coddled since the age of 13, 14 years old. They don't know what the average fucking American deals with. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't fucking matter. If you are athletically gifted in this country, you are identified at a very early age. Because I was one of those people. I got to go play baseball in college for free. I just wasn't very good when I got there. But these people are on a different level. And they for sure don't have the same expectations as the average person trying to just make it through the school system and get out into the job market. And then these are the ones that are going to try to preach to us with no actual understanding or nuance or anything that they could actually present as logical. And my biggest argument is, man, motherfucking LeBron James, as much as I can admire him as an athlete, the man is the most ignorant fucking guy to ever grace the fucking podium of a post press conference. Like, why people ask this guy for his opinion on things is beyond me, because it comes across as ignorant, because it is. And then it's almost like I feel sorry for him every time he speaks, because they're putting him in a position where he can't defend himself.
Right. Oh, well, at least he gets to say it without any interruption.
Yeah, but he's got 40 fucking million followers that
right. Right,
you know?
right, exactly. And I guess what I'm getting at is LeBron is hurting financially because of his ties to China.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
the gorilla in the room right there, the elephant, whatever it is,
you know,
it's in the room. It's fucking breaking shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And he's speaking out, and and all these NBA players, yeah, they don't like Trump because they're hurting their bottom line. The majority of their pay comes from endorsements, and a lot of their shoes are made almost every single.
They're all there. Yeah, they're what's an American shoe brand? I can't even name one.
Right. So I would if LeBron James had a shoe factory in the States and everything was in the States, and he got out there and said, Black Lives Matter, I'm down for it. You know what? I would support him. But the moment he came out and hit all his, it was just tied to money, and everything is tied to money. Yeah, you don't create a damn job in the States. Not one of the people that is your fan is benefiting from you playing. In fact, you take from your fans and to give nothing back, outside of charity. So at the end of the day, man, it really saddens me, because the biggest population, the biggest employer of the most successful black men is entertainment and sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jason Whitlock talks about this all the time. Like, the NFL is responsible for making more black millionaires than any business in this fucking country.
Yeah,
and it's true.
Yeah. And, it's just the thing at the end of the day, man, we got to, I always wanted to be more than just an athlete. I grew up playing sports. Really good.
Absolutely.
I wanted to be more than just an athlete. And I always saw, the guys in uniform, the men and women in uniform, as, my heroes. Ricky Henderson, my favorite baseball player.
I fucking love Ricky growing up. I wish I could run. I didn't steal a base in my life, man.
But the whole Oakland A's lineup, man, they were I was in.
They were so stacked, dude.
Jose Canseco, Dave Stewart, Dennis Eckersley,
Mark McGuire, Walt Weiss was playing short.
Walt Weiss.
God, I love the Oakland A's in the 90s, man. That team was fucking stacked.
And they were like, all right, I like these guys. These are guys. You know what?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, especially you growing up out here. Okay, so you chose Oakland over the Giants. Okay, I got you.
No, all my favorite players were on Oakland, but my favorite team was the Giants.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Got it.
But yeah, so yeah, I got to. I forgot what I was saying.
No, you were talking about how black athletes or just black Americans in sports.
But nowadays, now more recently, now you're seeing it more now. There's a lot of more black people are coming out. Look, I am successful. I own this business. And I am not, because the American media makes more money off black people being down and out than they do make money off of us being successful.
Right. And it's weird because it's the only population that is they're mandated almost to support one political party, and they can only have one actual thought, where everyone else is like, hey, you're free to think and vote for whoever you want.
Right. And then I think that paradigm is changing nowadays,
I sure fucking hope so, man, because,
so just a little quick story about me. Anyway, and so back, Ronald Reagan was elected in 1979, right? Mm-hmm. So check this out. I was living in Daly City, California, right outside San Francisco.
Yep.
I don't know why my mom did this, but the night President Reagan was elected president, my mom, I was asleep. I was in kindergarten when this happened. My mom came and woke me up and said, hey, son, Ronald Reagan's the new president of the United States. And from that point on, you know what? I was always bent, like, I didn't know what a Republican was or whatever, but that's where I was bent, a supporter of Reagan.
So your mom was a supporter of Reagan?
Well, my mom was I think she told me, I want to say she told me, I got to ask her this, because he was a governor of California.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, let me look this up real quick, but I'm fairly sure.
I wasn't.
Reagan's first election was so popular. I feel like he won the state of California, because it's all cyclical, man. But California was a very Republican state back then. So.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, I remember my mom telling me, like, Ronald Reagan won the election. So in fourth grade, he was up for, I was going to be in the fourth grade, and he was up for his second term against Walter Mondale.
Yeah.
And I remember
Mondale.
And I remember my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Clausen, she goes, hey, whose parents are voting for Mondale? And those parents who vote for Mondale raise their hands. They're like, all right, you guys remain seated. Whose parents are voting for Reagan? And everybody else rose their hand. They're like, all right, you can go out to recess. And I didn't know what my mom was voting, so I just rose my hand, Reagan, just because, I kind of assumed. But yeah, voting for Reagan was a huge deal.
Yeah. But real quick, the 1980 presidential election, Ronald Reagan did win California, and he also won 489 of the electoral votes. Jimmy Carter, who was running as the incumbent, won 49.
Oh, wow.
We call that a fucking blowout. That's what that's what that was. Jimmy Carter, also the last president to lose as an incumbent other than George Bush Sr. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't close. You're right. But he was governor of California, so it kind of probably worked in his favor.
Yeah, he was a great orator, too. So what do you think?
Well, he's an actor. I mean, what do you expect? You should hope he can talk.
You think Trump is going to have it in the bag?
I talk to you guys in our chat. I talk to all you guys, and when I get an opportunity to talk to you in this, this elongated format, and I give a lot of credence to what you guys say, because I think you view things differently than me. I think, as I've said multiple times, if there was any year that Democrats had a chance to win, it was this one, but they decided to nominate Joe Biden. And that's where and then look at these gaffes that came out today. You got a press conference clip or whatever it was with Kamala Harris, and she's saying, like, in a Harris administration with Joe Biden, I mean, it's like, it's almost like they used Biden as like the front to get the candidate that they wanted, which is Harris. And I get that. I mean, she fits everything that the Democrats want to offer up, minority, woman, female, fine. Got it. Would she be who I would have elected as the Democrats? Hard to say, man. As the Democrats pushed their people forward, I was never a fan of any of them going forward. If I was them, outside of maybe Harris and maybe Cory Booker. I feel like those two.
Booker. Yeah, I think Cory Booker had a chance, man.
I just don't think.
Yang. I think Yang had a chance.
I mean, the problem is, I don't think, and I can't remember if Joe said this last night, if it was said before. It's like the Democrats don't have an identity at this point, man. Like they're ran by their fringe. They have no actual platform. It's all anti-America. It's all let's change everything because the country fucking sucks. And they've just kind of like given up the patriotic, the pro-American, the pro-law enforcement, whatever. And you don't have to put those in your plank. But when you give it up and totally just allow the other side to use it against you politically, you're not setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. I think Joe I've been watching the polls, and I'm kind of confused because
It's fair.
The polls say one thing, but I've been driving around. I've made a couple of runs up to North Carolina, and going through South Carolina and Georgia, and I mean that's. I think Georgia is going to go Trump. I think South Carolina is going to go Trump, and Florida. I think you got to look at the smaller pockets of Florida and see like not the bigger cities. Because people want to crap on the electoral college, and they don't realize that the electoral college is there to prevent 5 cities from voting and electing the president every single time.
Yep, absolutely. No, I agree. It's the smartest thing we ever did, and they had no idea when they did it. But you're right. And just going based off of your scientific method, as Nick as this escapes Nick, like, what's the process? It's the scientific method, Nick. So if Nick guy listens to this, but no. I mean, I just last weekend or the weekend before, like we just drove up and down to, we went to Bodega Bay and came back. But yeah, the only signs I saw anywhere going through farm country or whatever in Northern California, it was all for Trump.
Yeah.
I get it. California's a lost cause. I got that. But if fuckers would just show up and vote in this fucking state, they might make it competitive, but they don't. So California is not one of the states that is in play this election, but the ones that you described, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. If you're seeing that, man, I mean that, and those are the people who are overt. Those aren't the people who are just, made to feel like, oh, I can't be positive or outspoken about my vote, so I won't say anything.
Right. Around here though, like even here in Orlando, you don't see a lot of Biden anything. Like I see like maybe a handful of Biden stickers, bumpers, placards. I don't see anything, man. I see Trump stuff everywhere. And so it makes me wonder, is the left, the mainstream media so bent on Biden, like trying to bend the message that Biden's ahead, that they're but what do the polls like? What is Rasmussen and some of these other pollsters like? What do they have to gain by lying?
Right.
It's.
I mean, I think Ron touched on this last week. Is like the internal polling will always be different, right? You mentioned Rasmussen. Yes, Rasmussen tends to skew more towards the Republican side, but these polls are just as politicized as the fucking media networks, man. At this point. I don't believe any of them overall at this point, and I think the only thing I can really think is actually polling accurately is the declining, and then not just the declining, but the rapidly declining support of the Black Lives Matter organization. Not Black Lives Matter. We gotta separate these two because
right.
Twitter is not smart enough to realize that when I say it, it's not Black Lives Matter. It's the Black Lives Matter organization. All right, two different entities. But then also that support is declining rapidly. That's proven by polls from all of them. But then also, it still exists, man. It existed in 2016. It exists now. Like, what benefit does anyone who actually is willing to answer a pollster, what benefit do they get by just voluntarily saying, yeah, I support Trump? What's the benefit?
Right.
There's none.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that I think Trump wins. I think it's close. Pretty much everyone I speak to thinks it's the opposite. They think it's Trump in a blowout. I'll gladly be wrong and hope it's a blowout. I just don't want the alternative.
And I think most people don't, but
that's who we know, and it's hard, right? Because you don't know if we're in an echo chamber. I don't know, but
I'm thinking. I think Biden. I'm saying this, but I'm thinking Biden is going to. If they don't get Biden in a debate,
Oh,
the Democrats don't have a chance.
Oh,
They
bro,
don't have
September 29th. You already know. We're doing the Goon Zoom watch, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Live. I can't wait. Watch
I
the
can't
debates.
either. I can't either. But yeah, now, look, man, I think let's see what takes place after that first debate. I'll be as surprised as you are if Mr. Biden actually shows up. But man, I absolutely appreciate you taking your time to be with me tonight and sharing all your stories. Again, I think like these are things the United States population needs to understand and respect and recognize that men like yourself who've been doing this shit for the last 20 fucking years plus, a ton of sacrifice. You already laid out the experiences that you were involved in that led to the recipient of a Medal of Honor. Like this is the smallest of our population, and you're the best that we've had to offer, man. And Javier, I truly appreciate everything you've done. And
Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely, man. And I'm glad you're still with us. And I look forward to talking to you and listening to you on the 29th, man, when we talk about this fucking Biden-Trump debate. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, I got a name for us. American Drip.
What is it?
American Drip.
American Drip. I'm going to throw it in the fucking chat as soon as I stop this recording, bro.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Drip.
All right, brother.
Man.
I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Later.